Let's be totally honest with ourselves for a second here. You know that feeling at the end of a long, completely exhausting day when literally all you want to do is just collapse into bed? Taking those recommended 2 minutes to brush your teeth can suddenly feel like an absolute eternity. We've all been there, right? Staring at the toothbrush, thinking, maybe I just skip it this once. Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking that highly relatable temptation and we are pushing it to the absolute extreme. We're going to explore the descent into total oral neglect together. But definitely stick around because there is a massive, science-backed plot twist at the end that you will absolutely not see coming.
So I want you to imagine absolute zero dental care. And I'm talking no brushing, no flossing, no swishing with mouthwash, absolutely nothing. Zero, nada, for one entire year. What would actually happen inside your mouth? Would your teeth just, immediately fall out? Or would you somehow be perfectly okay? Well, the reality is a fascinating, though admittedly pretty gross, biological journey.
Okay, let's dive into this timeline. If you stop brushing for just one day, food particles get trapped between your teeth, and that creates a perfect, undisturbed breeding ground for bacteria. Within just a few weeks, these bacteria spread to your tongue and your gums, developing into this sticky, colorless film called plaque. Now, because it's colorless, it completely flies under the radar, especially if your teeth aren't perfectly straight, which actually gives plaque way more places to hide out. But fast forward toward the 1-year mark, and that unremoved daily plaque, it hardens into something called tartar. And no, definitely not the yummy tartar sauce you'd put on fish. This is a hard, calcified deposit that violently irritates and literally eats away at your gums.
And that tartar buildup brings us to our first major medical milestone in this year-long experiment, gingivitis. Basically, this is the mildest form of gum disease. If your teeth are carrying a full year's worth of bacteria, plaque, and tartar, well, your gums are going to be incredibly swollen, they'll be tender, and yes, they're going to bleed from time to time. But there is actually a silver lining to this stage of decay. Even after a whole year of neglect, gingivitis is entirely reversible. With the help of a dentist and proper medication, you can actually bounce back completely from this stage.
But if left completely untreated, the situation escalates, and it escalates rapidly. This is the true tipping point. Untreated gingivitis basically throws an extravagant party for the bacteria in your mouth because, hey, they found a permanent home. And this develops into periodontitis. A deep bacterial infection sets in and begins to literally break away the bone that supports your teeth. And once that bone loss starts happening, the damage is completely irreversible. That is the exact moment you officially begin the terrible journey of permanent tooth loss.
Now, while all of this structural damage is happening quietly beneath the surface, there's an incredibly loud symptom happening right out in the open, and that's your breath. Think of standard morning breath. We all know it. Now imagine that exact smell, amplified 365 days a year. There would be no escaping the lingering scent of onions, coffee, or smoke. Your teeth are basically carrying decaying food particles, which produce bacteria with a remarkably potent odor. But interestingly enough, bad breath is actually a biological warning system. It's your body's way of sounding the alarm, warning you of gingivitis, or even signaling an underlying medical condition like kidney problems.
If you ignore that warning system, though, the social consequences are, well, they're pretty severe. Your social anxiety levels would likely skyrocket as you literally watch people taking a physical step back when you speak. You'd become incredibly self-conscious, and let's face it, you would likely acquire some pretty brutal nicknames behind your back. People might just start calling you the person who smells like death or has old landfill breath. Yikes.
Alongside the structural damage and that intense odor, you'd also suffer from extreme tooth demineralization. See, your teeth rely on essential minerals, things like calcium and phosphate, to keep the enamel strong and stave off tooth decay. While we all naturally lose some minerals as we age, a year without brushing, especially combined with a diet high in sugar and acidic foods, that puts this process into hyperdrive. You permanently lose your enamel, and that paves the way for eventual tooth loss that you literally cannot recover from.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the plot twist. Is it actually possible to go 365 days without brushing and somehow still come out the other side with pearly whites? Surprisingly, the science says yes. There is a way to survive this year if you rely on some incredibly specific alternative methods. So we're going to count down the top 4 science-backed ways to save your teeth without ever picking up a toothbrush.
Kicking off our survival countdown, we have method number 4.
A liquid line of defense, therapeutic mouthwash. If you use the right mouthwash, you actually wouldn't have to worry about that whole landfill breath situation. But more importantly, over-the-counter therapeutic mouthwashes containing alcohol and chlorhexidine can actually control plaque, gingivitis, and tooth decay.
They even detox any canker sores you might develop. Plus, according to Dr. Nicholas Toscano, he's a diplomate of the American Board of Periodontology, if your mouthwash contains fluoride, it actively helps reduce that dangerous demineralization we were just talking about. Just keep in mind, the American Dental Association strictly advises against this for kids under 6, mostly because they're pretty likely to swallow it.
Let's move to and see how this builds with method number 3.
This might actually be the most shocking quote of the entire explainer. Dr. Mark Burhanen, a dentist out in California, straight up says, flossing is more important than brushing. Think about that. If you completely stopped brushing for a year, but strictly maintained a daily flossing habit, you would save your teeth from plaque buildup in those critical, hard-to-reach areas right by the gum line, places where a brush literally can't even get to anyway. As long as you never let more than 24 hours pass without flossing, you could effectively prevent gum disease all by itself. Crazy, right?
Advancing to method number 2. For this one, we're moving away from the bathroom sink entirely and heading straight into the kitchen.
Dr. Philippe Pujol, a professor of oral health at the University of Washington School of Dentistry, points out that the absolute best way to prevent cavities isn't actually brushing at all. It's simply avoiding sugar and simple carbohydrates. Here's the mechanics of why that works. Your mouth is naturally host to all sorts of bacteria, but the really dangerous ones are the types that feast on sugar. When you eat a lollipop or a piece of cake, those specific bacteria essentially throw a massive feast. And as they digest the sugar, they emit acids that destroy your tooth enamel and form infections. So by just starving them of their favorite food source, you stop the acid attacks completely. Plus, as a little bonus, you might shed a few pounds over the year.
And finally, we arrive at method number 1, the most surprising tactic of the whole bunch, which actually promises whiter teeth without a single drop of whitening toothpaste.
According to Dr. Jonathan Levine, an associate professor at the NYU School of Dentistry, the secret is shifting your mouth's pH levels by eating high alkaline foods. It basically comes down to a surprisingly practical grocery list. Apples, they naturally take stains off teeth. Sweet potatoes actively help whiten them. Pineapples contain a specific ingredient called bromelain, which is famously used in actual whitening toothpastes to remove stains. Strawberries pack malic acid, which fights gum inflammation. You can even rub the inside of an orange peel directly against your teeth to expose them to limonene, a substance found in countless professional whitening products. With this kind of diet, your teeth might actually end up whiter than they were when you started the year? No way, right?
So the crucial point is this. While the science behind surviving a year without brushing is absolutely fascinating, and these biological workarounds genuinely do exist, we still have to pivot back to reality for a second. The safest, most effective approach will always be following the established recommendations of the medical community.
And those recommendations from the American Dental Association are the tried and true steps we all know. Brush twice a day, floss daily, and visit your dentist so they can create a plan that works specifically for your lifestyle. The alternative methods we just explored are amazing biological facts, really cool stuff. But please do not use them as an excuse to go out and attempt this terrifying 365-day experiment yourself.
But, it does make you think about your own habits, doesn't it? Knowing how incredibly fast the timeline of decay starts, and yet how resilient the mouth can be if given the right tools. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. What is the absolute longest you have ever gone without brushing your teeth? Really think about it the next time you're tempted to skip that 2-minute routine before crawling into bed. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.